folks. Welcome back. I believe that this is episode 23, unless I'm corrected. I know it's 23, as a matter of fact, because I looked up earlier today. Again, attempting you to bring the best and brightest and the greatest guitar players in the city of Boston here. I have a monster I've been seeing on Facebook for the longest time, and I reached out through Joe Filoni, who was on probably about 5 or 6 episodes ago. Joe recommended Tony Savarino to come on board, so let's hear about Tony Savarino. Tony, born in my fair city of Cambridge, Mass., where I was born as well, way back when, a couple of decades before Anthony here, to a mother who was a painter and a father who was a nuclear physicist. Whoa. Did that ever rub off the nuclear physicist thing?
Unfortunately, no. To my father's dismay, no.
Tony made his debut as an 11-year-old at a loft party opening for the seminal performance art troupe Pink Ink at 2 a.m. in the morning. And now, is that right? An 11-year-old to be yelled at 2 a.m.? That's the way, you learn as a young age as a musician to get out there and you play whenever. Tony has played in every band in Boston. Now, I've read this often on all his stuff, and he goes on to tell me, it's like, no, really. The Sav Tones, and we'll talk about them, Dale Bosio, whom I remember, T.M. Stevens, Give, Ruby Rose of Fox, the Rudds, Garvey J, the Montgomerys, and the Emily Grogan band, to name a few. The Noise voted Tony its favorite guitar player in 2005 and 2004 and 5 because he moves so easily from rock to pop to funk to reggae to soul to country. And we'll talk about that because being what I call a Swiss Army knife of a guitar player helps you in your career. But it might also be because he matches his guitars to his silk ties, the fashionable guy. I'll change that word there. The Boston Groupie News has called Tony Savarino ubiquitous. He's absolutely everywhere. He is a guitar player's guitar player, very versatile with the unique ability to put his own personal stamp on everything he does. He has appeared in Vintage Guitar Magazine, Guitar World, Guitar Player for the Practicing Musician, the Boston Globe, the Boston Phoenix, the Noise, and Soundcheck. Currently, he is caught gigging around the New England area and a variety of different artists ranging in styles from metal, country, jazz, folk, indie, soul, and everything else. And as a matter of fact, he does a lot of teaching as well. So, and we're going to be talking a little bit about his new album that just came out in September, in 2019, called Savvy Tonarino. And so, with no further ado, Mr. Tony Savarino, how you doing, man?
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on board, man.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you to Joe Filoni for recommending me.
Yes,
I'm not
I love
worthy,
Joe.
man. I'm not worthy.
So let's start at the beginning, man. So 1970. How old were you when you started?
So there's a couple stories about that.
Because you're 11 gigging.
Yeah. So the story goes, and I don't remember this, that my parents had gone to a flea market when I was 3, and.
Are you going to beat the record? 3 years old. 6 years old is the record thus far.
Yeah. And I didn't start playing the guitar at 3, but there's an interesting story. We went to a flea market, and the story goes that I saw an acoustic guitar sitting there.
Uh-huh.
I actually might be able to send you a picture of it.
I would love that.
And I just took it from this one. I just took the guitar and started walking away with it.
Mm-hmm.
And my father, to my dismay, had to go and pay for the thing, but I was already halfway out the parking lot, like when I had this.
So what was it? An acoustic?
Yeah, it was just some
like $10, $20 special.
Peter, and I just sort of dragged the thing around till about I was 7 or 8 years old. Now at that point, my parents had split up, and my mom was dating a guy who was actually an amazing painter. His name's Jerry Bergstein, and my mom being a painter, there would be openings on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
And after the opening, there'd be an after party. And typically, all these painters were frustrated musicians.
Uh-huh.
So they'd have
Really?
blues jams.
Yeah. I've known many.
If you think about, Eric Clapton and Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck all went to art school.
All the Beatles too were art.
So it's kind of like, that's when I learned my very first guitar chord, which was A major.
Which is an excellent chord.
Yeah.
I think A sus actually taking away that third finger, actually works well for little kids,
Yeah.
And E minor.
Yeah. And then he taught me a basic 12-bar blues. I think in
And
A.
who taught you that?
This is Jerry Bergstein. He's
Oh,
a
that
painter.
painter.
He's a pretty seminal. If you look him up online, he's
Cool.
like he taught at museum school for years. And then I just kind of messed around with those two chords for a little while. And you know,
At 7, you said?
probably around 8 or 9.
So
just
we're talking
chords.
1978. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And you know, at that point, I was going to school in Cambridge at Fairweather Street School, and they had a music teacher there who started giving me private guitar lessons. And then he sort of taught me all your cowboy chords.
Are we talking 9 years old now?
Yeah, 8, 9.
So that's what, 4th grade?
Probably,
grade?
yeah.
Third or fourth grade?
And
That's when I
fifth
started, fourth grade.
Yeah, 4th grade.
Yeah.
And he would come over to our house and give me guitar lessons, and he would show me Stones tunes. That's how I learned B minor from Wild Horses.
Sure, yeah.
He showed me the Chuck Berry licks. He showed me Rocky Mountain Ray. Yeah, and it's sort of like. And so I think he might have showed me. He probably showed me a couple Beatles tunes. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But sort of like Stones, Chuck Berry, Beatles, and that sort of thing. And I kind of got really good at the things he taught me. And I got in a real comfort zone. It was really hard for me to break out of.
No soloing, no scales, just the cowboy.
Oh no, I did learn. He taught me that.
Scale, folks.
He taught me that.
Yeah.
And I just would do that. That was about my ball.
Right,
ball
sure.
of tricks. And so I got really comfortable with that. Now my schoolmates, interesting enough, were Joe Gittleman and Nate Albert from the Bosstones.
They still with us? They still?
Yeah, they're still alive.
Yeah.
Joe Gittleman plays.
Say hi to them. They'll be watching the show.
Hello, Joe and Nate. And Nate also played guitar. And so we were really, at that point we were really sort of into the Clash and the Sex Pistols.
Were you still like 10ish?
Yeah. Well, my mom, it was in Cambridge, and my mom was teaching
A very
at
hip
art
town,
school.
yeah.
Yeah. And so, as a kid, the music I was hearing in my house was like Ziggy Stardust, T-Rex, Iggy Pop, New York Dolls, like early 70s.
Right.
And maybe some Queen.
And I could see that, just kind of backtracking from when you were born. Your parents were probably 25.
No, my dad was around 30.
So 30.
My mom was probably.
Yeah,
my mom was born in 44, so she was like,
hip age. You were hip to what was happening at 1980. We're talking Cars Are Coming.
Well, the Cars came out in 78.
Right.
And we had we had the first Cars. I just did that record over and over, that and Candio, the Cars and Candio.
Yeah.
And, but I think, if I really think about it, there's a couple moments where guitar made a profound impact on me. Like, what the hell is that sort of thing? Can I say hell on there?
Sure.
So, and that was when I watched Happy Days and Rock Around the Clock. The guitar solo in that
was amazing, and that was the Big Bopper.
The Big Bopper.
And I don't know who the guitar player was.
Was it the Big Bopper or was it Bill Haley in the comics?
It was Bill Haley, but I think the guitar player, I don't know who the guitar player was.
Yeah.
But that was not in that band. That was like a major league, studio guy.
Yes.
Of some sort.
Yeah. And then the other man, so both my parents were not your typical parents. They were bohemians.
Cambridge, hippie-ish.
Yeah,
And that was the hippie times,
Yeah, so my dad said,
right.
They split up, and my dad would try to find, things from doing the weekends. He says, this movie came out called Apocalypse Now. Let's go see it. So he took me when I was 7 or 8 years old, and I loved it. But there is a scene where the famous scene where Lance is behind the boat and he's water skiing.
Right.
And they're listening to USO
and
radio.
It was being bombed, right? That was the surfing when
Yeah. I think it got on the surf and Satisfaction. I can't get this comment came on, and the guitar sound from that just like, I'm like, what is? And I kept saying, Dad, what is that sound? And I was like, that blew my mind. So says, yeah, your mom probably has that record. Go ask her about
That
the
was an old
Stones."
tune at that time. I think that tune came out in 64, 65,
Yeah.
something like that.
But something
So,
about the sound of the
15 years later.
distortion,
Yeah.
like. And the bass line really weird because the bass line was.
Yeah, the bass line's opposite.
And I just thought that was so cool.
And that was an odd thing. Bill Wyman doing that kind of thing. Because it was totally
That was
opposite.
supposed to be a
I wonder
horn
if that
line.
was Brian Jones doing that kind of.
No, that was Keith Richards.
I mean, but I wonder who came up with that.
Keith Richards
did?
came
Yeah.
and he wrote it as a guideline for horns.
Right.
Because they were supposed to record horns over that while he was touring in the States.
I'm glad they didn't.
And they left the guitar there instead. So.
And that was probably the only time that Keith played with distortion. Because he normally plays with the amp all the way up.
Yeah, all the way up. Totally.
And he talks about that. He's not a pedals guy.
No, he's not a pedals guy at all. But he got distortion in really interesting ways.
Right.
So take a song like "Gimme Shelter."
Yeah.
There's only one electric instrument in that whole track, which is the
Really?
bass. Yes. Everything else is acoustic.
Yeah.
The drums are wooden practice pads. No, not
That one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe there's the electric guitar. No, it's not Street Fighting Man. I'm mixing them up.
Yeah.
Street Fight. That's the song. Everything's acoustic except the bass. And the way they got the distortion on that is he would record into this tape deck.
Like a tape deck, an old-fashioned.
And it would distort in a certain way, and then they would play that track with the other tracks.
That's one of my favorite Stones tunes that people don't really think about.
No.
And they never play it live anymore because it was written right around the time of Jumpin' Jack Flash, too, and it's in the same range of beat. So, but I like that song.
Did you ever hear Rod Stewart's version of it?
Yes, I love that version. I love those old Rod Stewart albums.
It's like a first Rod Stewart, like his version of it. It's like as good, but totally different.
I think about your time growing up. It's interesting. It had to be that osmosis, man, being in Cambridge, being 3 years old, because like Led Zeppelin 2 was out, and it's like, and all that cool. The Beatles were still the osmosis of the Beatles was finishing, and then the Eagles, that country rock. There was so much happening. So you're like 10 and playing a big...
So like for instance, the Eagles, like so. Everybody's listening to Eagles, but I was listening to the Flying Burrito Brothers.
Right, which I remember.
I
don't know much about
Grant
them.
Parsons, so someone's listening to Kiss. My mom brought home the first Devo record.
Yep.
That was like my Kiss.
And I was a big rocker, but I also like...
Oh yeah, soul.
R&B soul and all that stuff, all that stuff too. Yeah. It's interesting. There was so much happening.
Yeah.
So go back. So you're 10, 11, 12-ish, 6th grade or so, and you got a band.
So, my band, it's not really a band. So, I'm living in this area of Boston called Fort Point, which is technically South Boston.
Right.
And
which is the hippest area in the country right now.
Yeah,
Your
that's
hometown.
Debatable. I think it was hipper back then, but at that point, all that was down there were lofts, artists and lofts, right? And there was all these amazingly great parties. And I was like one of the only kids in the neighborhood. There's been 3 kids in the whole neighborhood. It looked like bombed out Dresden. I mean, it wasn't zoned for living, so we weren't supposed to be living down there. And we had like 4,000 square feet. So my mom's friend Deb Roth.
4,000 square feet?
Yeah, for $600 a month. I used to ride my bike around inside the loft.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. What's your mother's name?
Savarino, Paula Savarino.
Is she still with us?
No, she passed 3 years ago.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
No.
My wife was deputy of cultural affairs for the city of Boston during that time, all during the 80s and the 90s, and was intimately involved in that artist's loft in Fort Point in creating that.
Oh, the co-op, the 249 A Street co-op,
yes.
which is where I live.
That was a whole big thing to try to give artists a place to live in the city And it's amazing. I got to talk to her. Sue, that was you who was involved. And
yeah, my mom was one of the founders of that co-op and one of the founders of the 4 Point Arts community. In fact, we're showing her work in the gallery there, and the Savatones are playing. It's free. This Saturday, 5 to 7 p.m.
Cool.
At the 249 A Street Boston Gallery.
Cool.
You can look it up online. It's on my Facebook page too. So she was
Go back to that Tony story then. So where are you? What are you doing? You're living directly in the city.
Yeah, and the channel's like right around the corner.
You know, I was playing the channel at that time.
Yes.
In the early 80s.
Yes.
I was opening for the Cars. I was opening up for Extreme.
Yes.
I was in this funky band that was a mixture of Jethro Tull meets Frank Zappa.
Oh, wow.
No way you're going to get a record contract. You know, 3 guys from Berkeley, 2 from New England. It's just, you know, odd time signatures, whatever.
Yeah.
But you were a little kid there, and I was playing down the street.
I was going to see sound checks on my way home from school.
Cool.
Channel, like Bo Diddley and James
I did the same
Brown
thing 10 years earlier at the Tea Party as a 15-year-old.
Yes, yeah.
Down on Lansdowne.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so you were musically sure.
So I got an electric guitar for I think for 1980 for Christmas.
Cool.
I stepped up from my crap, and my dad got me this PV amp, and he got the guitar from this music store in Belmont, and we got the amp. There used to be this music store in the Galleria in Harvard Square.
I forget it. There were a bunch of cool little shops.
Yeah, this was in like,
Harvard Square
it was
back
upstairs,
then.
And we got this.
They're all gone now.
And Deb's like, well, why don't you play this big party we're having? We got a drummer for you. And this guy named Jimmy Ryan.
This is the thing we talk about when you're 11.
Yeah.
At 2 a.m.
And you know, I was in the punk rock, so I said I can write 10 punk rock songs. They're really easy, you know.
Yeah.
And I could just scream over a mic, and you know, people will love it. And so we would rehearse like 3 days a week in the loft, just guitar and drums. You know, this was Jack White before Jack White.
Right.
And we went and played this party, and it was huge. It was like this huge party, and people loved it. So then I started getting called for gigs at all the other parties in the neighborhood. So I would just show up with a guitar, someone would let me use their amp, and whoever was on drums, I would just start wailing away on some power chords.
And let me ask you, is that the strap you had back then?
No, it's not.
That's a used strap, man.
Yeah, it's a used strap. No, one of my students gave this to me. Actually, great guitar player named Bruno Giordano.
It's probably 50 years old.
Yeah, it's probably 15. It's probably only 15 years
Really?
old.
Okay.
Yeah, it's seen a lot of wear and tear.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So you did that gig, and you got the bug saying, I don't want to be a lawyer. I want to be this.
Yeah, it's more like the guitar picked me. I wasn't like this guy. I guess this is what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
So, you know, I tried to fart around on my own for a little while, and then, you know, probably, and I wasn't making a lot of progress, and then, you know, I start high school, and then my peers were like, oh, well, you got to check this out, you got to check this.
Where were you in high school?
In Watertown. It was this private school.
Oh, really?
In Watertown, called the Palfrey Street School.
I know it well. I know Palfrey, that hill.
Yeah, so right before the. Yeah,
I know that school.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so I went there.
That's a haul from Southie every day.
Actually, it's not as bad as you think. There was a bus that left from South Station that went right up the pike to Watertown Square.
57.
I think it was a 57.
Yeah.
And I get to school in 15 minutes.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah, so it worked out perfectly. And there's a whole other side. Like, I also started going to shows at this place called Gallery East. They had all ages shows where I got to see, like, bands like early hardcore Boston bands like DYS and SSD Control. And if people were familiar with that, I don't know if the FUs played there, Gangrene.
Yeah.
That whole sort of scene.
You know, it's interesting. Let me interrupt. Of that time back then, Boston, believe it or not, was the place in the country. And I graduated Berkeley in '78, went on the road for 2 years, and then came back, and Boston was booming because of Boston, the Cars, Jake Giles, Aerosmith.
Yes.
They were, you know, then bands like Till Tuesday came. And so all the record companies, 10 years later, it was Seattle.
Yes.
And now the kids who graduate.
Well, actually, they went L.A. then Seattle.
Exactly.
Yeah, hair metal, then to grunge.
And now the kids that graduate from Berkeley, they go to Nashville, New York, or L.A. They don't stay here.
No.
But you were so right. That time was fruitful for an amazing. And there were places like the Channel. There was Bun Ratty's, the Rat, which I played numerous times.
Yeah.
There were so many. The Channel. How you can't forget the Channel, which was infamous for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Let's not get into Whitey Bulger in the place, but
podcast. It was. I think actually Frank Salemi owned it.
Right. Well, they're all connected.
Yeah. Right.
I'm not putting you guys down at all. No. So that's interesting. So you're still a kid. Like, say you're 15.
15. And
you're in high school. You're like,
and then I went through the typical sort of 14, 15, 16-year-old sort of apex, which is I discovered Zeppelin. Finally, I discovered Zeppelin.
At 15.
It took me a while.
Yeah.
I discovered Zeppelin.
What, the first?
Then I discovered
albums?
Van Halen.
Okay.
And
I skipped Van Halen. That was not my age. I was a Berkeley guy. So
you were like, whatever.
What's that guy doing?
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Then I discovered Randy Rhoads.
Right.
And then I discovered Yngwie.
Right.
Then it was all bets are off. When I discovered Yngwie Malmsteen, I'm like, this is.
And let me interrupt. If you listen to his latest album, I'm hearing 1955.
Exactly.
Clean.
Right? Yeah.
Reverb.
Yes.
I don't hear Yngwie.
No, you wouldn't.
But you just saw him play. He can play his backside off.
And then, so I was like, man, this is amazing. Yeah, he's into classical music. That's what my friend Omar said. And he says, you got to get into classical music. So there was this guy in the Red Line who played classical guitar named Walter Staniel.
On the Red Line.
On the Red, he would play awesome.
Like playing down the South Station?
Yeah, like busking. He was busking.
Oh, right.
So I went up to him and said, I want guitar lessons. He says, I give guitar lessons. I'm in Malden. Here's my card. I started taking classical guitar from him.
That's why your right hand's so good.
I guess
you got all four fingers going.
Yeah, I try.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, this isn't really what Yngwie's doing. I mean, he's influenced by this, and I really love it.
Because he's using a pick.
Yeah, he's using a pick, but also it was like, and I loved it, and it was kind of like put me on this other sort of like rabbit hole, right? Mm-hmm. At the same time, when I was taking the bus home, there was a super cool metalhead guy that would get on the bus with his guitar. I was a metalhead. I had to.
Right.
So it took us about 4 months to say hello to each other on the bus ride. We finally did.
Was he an older guy, like 20?
Yeah, he was like 19, and I was like 15 or 16.
Cool.
So he was a lot of. He goes, I need a guitar tech. I can't pay you anything, but I got a band called Accelerate, and I need a guitar tech.
He had the hair.
Yeah, he had the hair
and a bunch of belt things. And
no. He was at my Michael Shankar school. He was sort of like jeans, t-shirt, like you know. And his name is Stan Corianopoulos. He's an awesome guitar player. Is he still around? He's still around. In fact, he's not far from here. He owns a Corvette restoration shop, I think in Walpole.
Really?
And he had a band called Throwdown. And you should actually have him on this show.
I would love him, man, if he's the next town over.
Yeah, you should totally have him on. So I met him. He says, I'll let you keep. At this point, I graduated. I'd saved up for a Marshall stack, so I had a full Marshall stack.
Wow.
And he says, you can keep your amp in my space if you guitar tech for me at shows. And his band was Accelerate. And they had a rehearsal space at the place down in Alewife. Cambridge Music Complex. Yeah. And they were in room 13. In room 13, they shared a rehearsal space with a band called Extreme.
They did pretty well.
Yeah. So I was now with these guys, and we'd have jams. Nuno would come in, and he'd play drums, and we'd do Sabbath jams, and they were always writing each other nasty notes about not using each other's guitar chord, and
right.
And I said, how do I learn how to play like that? Like all the he says, well, you got to go see this guy up the hall. He's a really good guitar player. He gives lessons. I don't give lessons. His name's Gary Hoey.
Who's one of the major names in the business today.
Yeah. And Gary Hoey, and there was another great guitar teacher there in the complex. I took lessons from both of them. It was this guy named Rob Knockowitz.
Don't know.
Who played in the original Diver Down tribute. And they kind of started gearing me towards, learning my modes.
Right.
Learning all my seventh chords, at least two forms of my seventh chords. Cover your Berkeley One proficiency,
Yeah.
And from there, I started, getting into sort of the shred stuff. This is when Mike Varney's full process was on with like Tony McAlpine, Yngwie Malmsteen, Paul Gilbert, Greg Howe, Vinnie Moore. And backed up. Vinnie Moore's bass player from Time Odyssey is on my new record. He plays pedal steel on.
Oh, cool.
On the song "When You Were Gone," which is off the new record Savvy Tony. We've been old friends, and actually, I took a guitar lesson from him too. I took lessons wherever I could.
So you're 15, hanging with the hanging with the major Boston players.
Yes.
And what, would you end up at the Channel at 1 in the morning?
I was at the Channel. I was at Bun Ratties. I was teching for Accelerate. The band that I'll tell you the bill this night. I was teching for Accelerate, and there was a show at Bun Ratties,
right?
And it was Accelerate.
Was that the night the bouncer got shot in the face?
No, but I was at that show. The Bang was playing, no pun intended, and Trash Broadway, which has a famous guitar player,
David Steele.
David Steele and Joe Stump was playing
Joe
guitar.
is the #1 metal guy at Berkeley today.
Yeah, right.
Dave's going to be in the show in a couple of months.
Yes.
Dave Steele. I tried to get Joe. He hasn't replied to me.
Yeah. Then the band headlining was Extreme.
Wow. Yeah.
And at that point, Nuno was 19. Right. Stan was 19. I was 16. And they were not going to let us play because we were underage.
Right.
And Nuno somehow pulled the strings and saved the night. Got all the bands to play and got us all to stay in there. And not much were really doing it. I mean, we were drinking beers. That was about it. I mean, it wasn't that crazy yet, you know. So I was hanging out with all those guys, picking up what I could, you know.
But the teching. Where'd you learn how to really tech?
I didn't know how to tech. I could tune a guitar.
Strings. Yeah.
I could tune a guitar. I could change strings. I did not know how to use a strobe tuner yet. So there was this famous guitar tech on the scene named Lori. She teched for everybody. She was this tall Amazon woman who could kick your butt. Worked for Extreme. Taught me how to use a strobe tuner.
Cool.
She probably doesn't even rember. And
strobe tuners back then were like $500.
Yes.
And they were the big orange thing.
Yeah, I have mine still.
You know, and it really.
yeah, I use it all the time. I
was in a band where we changed like A441 for some bizarre reason. The bass player came in. That was you, Ron, who came up with that. I'm there. Why do we do that?
So I'm there. I'm going to all the metal shows. I kind of seen the punk thing on the other side of. So Kenmore Square was divided in two. You have the side of the Rat. You have the side of Narcissus.
Right. Totally different world. You had disco and rock and roll.
Yeah. And so the suburban kids. Typically, North Shore suburban kids would play Narcissus or Celebrations. Or Celebrations.
Right,
it was like the Max's Kansas City of Boston.
Right.
Whereas the Rat was like the CBGBs of Boston.
Right.
And the metal guys would play there. National acts would play the Channel, obviously.
Right, sure.
And
or Paradise, too.
Or Paradise, too. You know, or sometimes the Metro, which became City, which became Avalon.
Right.
So I was in that scene, and then I started taking guitar lessons again. I said, I should get back into this classical thing because I really enjoyed it. So there was a school of music in Arlington called Wolfman School of Music, and I started taking lessons from this amazing guitar player named Joe Zuccalla, who went on to become the Boston Conservatory's chair of the guitar department. He was a classical guitar player.
Is he still around?
Yeah, I think he's in Florida now. He was an amazing teacher, and his ear was to the ground, so he was into all the shred stuff I was into.
Really?
Yeah, he was a
classical teacher.
Yeah. He was a great blues guitar player.
Wow.
But he really helped me with my repertoire. And then at that point, I knew I was going to play guitar. I enrolled at Berkeley. I got in. I graduated high school half year early, and I did that whole thing. And from there,
Did you graduate from Berkeley? Do 4 years?
Yeah, I did all 4. I was a failure. I didn't get a gig before I left. Yeah, I did the professional music.
Which is the hardest part for musicians. I was mus ed, but the professional musician, that's where they really,
I think performance is even tougher.
Oh, that's what I thought you were meant.
Mine was professional music with emphasis on performance. At that point, I was not really into jazz yet. I like things that flirted with jazz. Like I was like into fusion. Like I was into Holdsworth, and I was into Scott Henderson and Mike Stern.
Right.
And I went
That's why I'm trying to think about earlier Mike Stern with the telly playing jazz.
Exactly. Ted Green, that's another guy who played telly.
That rings a bell.
Chord chemistry book.
That rings a bell. I can't remember.
Yeah, he's not with us anymore, but he taught MI. He's like one of the greatest guitar players that ever lived. He played on the telly. He was famous for the book Chord Chemistry, but he can improvise Bach fugues on his guitar.
Improvise.
Yeah, improvise Bach fugues on guitar. And there's a great video of him on YouTube in his kitchen just doing it. He's having a conversation.
Wow.
And it's like his kitchen table's a mess. There's like cigarette butts everywhere.
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I went to Berkeley.
Were you playing during Berkeley gigs?
No, my first 4 semesters, I kind of, I'll be honest. I was not the greatest student.
Mm-hmm.
I was good enough to impress some people, but I would say, if I could say one thing to young Tony, is just stop chasing girls and put your head in the books. I wasn't a horrible student. I wasn't the best student.
Who was your guitar teacher?
My guitar teacher at Berkeley primarily was Jim Kelly.
Oh, Jim's still around.
Yes, I see Jim all the time.
He was one when I was there in the mid-'70s. He was one of the young guys, him and Jim Anderson.
Yes.
And Jim left and taught at Northeastern, but I never took with Jim Kelly, but he was one of the young guys.
Yes.
He wasn't, and I was not, I went to Berkeley the first year when they essentially let rock and rollers. I had a Marshall and a Les Paul and long hair. And left with short hair, a 335 and a buggy. And immediately went on the road with a show band and had to relearn how to play music that makes you money.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to Autumn Leaves, which doesn't make you money.
Yeah.
Sorry to break it to you guys.
So Jim Kelly was a guy I studied with there, private students.
Cool.
I also studied with Bob Stanton.
Don't know him.
He's still there.
Actually, I've been in touch with him. I want to get him on the show.
You should. He's probably the greatest guitar player in Boston, or at least one of them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that offline.
And then another guy I studied with there was John Finn.
Yeah, I'm trying to get John on the show too.
John
happens to be the guitar player for the Boston Pops.
Yep, Bob.
Him and his wife. I think his wife is better.
Yeah.
Have you heard her?
No, she's amazing.
She's a monster.
She's a monster. And then who else I said? This guy, Charles Chapman, who was an old school bebopper. He's from the old school. He was amazing.
Yeah.
Another old school bebopper I said was Al DeFino.
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Who was basically taught me tritone substitution in 15 minutes and changed my life. I had a lot of great teachers.
Larry Bayon was an old friend of mine too. He was the guitar.
Larry, he's
chairman.
emeritus now. He's still there. He's still there. I teach their 5-week program.
I saw that on you. I'm trying to get Larry on the show, and Larry keeps on pushing me off.
Yeah.
But I go way back with Larry. But I saw that you teach.
Yeah, I do the 5-week. I teach ensembles and music theory there.
Cool.
So it's awesome.
So let's go on. So you graduate Berkeley. What happens?
Well, then I have to get a job.
Work?
Don't quit your day. So I actually worked for a brief time across the street at the store 24.
Right.
Which is now 7-Eleven. And then after that, I started working as a line cook at the Harp at the Garden. At this point, I had gotten some money for graduation.
Right.
So I invested in a home studio. And I started recording these demos. And I sent one to Mike Varney, who wrote the Spotlight column for Guitar Player magazine.
Right.
And at this point, he had moved over to the Guitar World, and he decided to write a column up on me and spotlight me. It compared me to, at that point, I was really into Steve Vai.
You got on Spotlight in Guitar Player magazine. That's huge.
Yeah. That was, at that point, that was like a really big deal.
They don't do it anymore, but that was a cool thing.
Yeah, totally. And that followed right after with John Six had his own column called the Resume column in Guitar Player. So I got into both of those at the same time.
Wow.
So that opened a couple of doors because I listed my influences. I think I enlisted my influences. So, tell you where you're from, what your name was, what your age was, and who your influences were. And then they would talk about you a little bit. And, I was doing some playing gigs. I was doing some sort of high school stage production, music pit bands type of stuff.
And those are always tough, man. I've done a couple of those where in the reading is serious level reading.
Yeah, it is. It's totally serious level reading. Luckily, I would get ones and I would already know the musicals, like Grease.
I did Grease too, and Grease was really hard. But
I'm
much better if I get to try it way ahead of time. It's like I told you, I'm playing with the Platters and, of course, a couple of bands next month, and I get the stuff and I get their shows, and then it's like I can be Bill, as opposed to, whoa, these notes are coming real fast. I'm told John Finn can read anything.
Oh, yeah, he's amazing.
At any speed.
Yeah, he's ridiculous.
And it's just, we just don't grow up. We grow up playing. We grow up doing that kind of stuff, and then we pick it up.
Yeah.
That's why guitar players, well, let's not get into that. So,
So from there,
you're getting
a couple things happened. So I decided to make a big move, and I moved from South Boston to the North End.
Ooh, Madonna mia.
You know, and so I'm living in the North End, and I get into this guitar magazine, and someone shows so I list my influences. I think my influences where I listed was Zappa, Holdsworth, and Yngwie Malmsteen.
Three of the hardest.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
I don't.
And so
this is a Holdsworth chord.
Yeah. and I think someone from Zappa's universe saw it, which was a big tribute to Frank Zappa at the time.
Right.
And someone said, Dale, you're looking for a guitar player. There's a guitar player in Boston who just was in Guitar World. And it just so happens the girl I was dating was best friends with Dale. Well, actually, I got to go back before that. While I was in Berkeley, I did a Hendrix tribute show in the cafeteria. And my friend Eric Buddy, who worked for Joe Cocker's management, came up for the weekend. And Joe Cocker's bass player at the time was this guy, T.M. Stevens. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to put a band together. So they saw me and said, this kid Tony would be perfect for it. You know, I had long hair, was wild. You know. I was trying to do this sort of Steve Vai crazy thing at Berkeley.
It's show. So you got to look like a show.
You know.
You can't look like a lawyer.
Yeah. And so I started, he hooked me with T.M. Stevens, who went on to play with Steve Vai and play with Stanley Jordan. And this bass player who's renowned.
Right.
And I go down to New York and we work on tunes or maybe jam. And then for my senior recital, I brought TM up and we just played a bunch of, we played some Tommy Bolin and we played some, I didn't do the straight jazz thing yet. It was kind of just what a rock guy could handle in terms of jazz was like maybe some Billy Cobham.
And what year are we talking, 84, 85?
No, now we're in the 91, 92.
Okay, so it's interesting because you really couldn't show rock and roll or look like rock and roll. In the mid-'70s, it was verboten.
No, but it was still sort of looked down upon in the 90s.
Which kills me.
They tolerated us. They really tolerated. But we weren't winning any popularity contests, you know. The school was really impressed that I was able to organize TM coming up.
Right.
And because he played with Miles Davis, he played with, he played with everybody.
That's cool.
Al Di Meola, John McLaughlin, you named it, he played with them. And he was just starting to play with Steve Vai in that band that Steve Vai had after Whitesnake. He put out one vocal record with Terry Bozzio and Drew Townsend. I forget the name of the record. But anyways, so I did that, but I still had to go back to my day job. Well, Dale calls me up and says, do you want to do the Zappa's Universe thing with me? New York. And I said, yes. And I talked to the director, Joel Thumb. There were several conversations. Suffice to say, nothing happened, but Dale got some gigs and asked me to come play with her. So I did. I toured with her for about 4 years. Mm-hmm. You know?
Wow.
And then that kind of ran its course. And then...
Traveling? Kind of?
Yeah, all over the place.
Based out of Boston?
Based out of Boston.
But you're on the road.
Yeah, I mean...
3 months at a time type thing.
Yeah, exactly. So we went from here all the way to San Diego, up to Seattle, across Zigzag.
What kind of gigs? Opening up for people or?
No, we were headlining.
Headlining. What kind of places? Were you playing like Orpheum level places?
Some of the...
Or Rat level places?
West of the Mississippi could any be like House of Blues size venues.
So serious level.
Yeah, and then some places like the size of the Rat.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it was the
whole. But
name
places.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite, a couple of my places. Well, one of my favorite places to play in California, there was one place in San Juan Capistrano, which is still there, called the Coach House. We played a lot. The place in Redondo Beach I like to play a lot called the Strand. Mm-hmm. And Atlanta had this group of clubs. Its names are forgetting me, but they had clubs in Gainesville, I think somewhere else, and the club was divided into 3 levels: Hell, Purgatory, and Heaven. And bands played in Heaven. I got to play all over the place with her. She taught me.
So what happened after 4 years with that?
Well, then 4 years of that, I got a gig with, and he shall remain nameless, with someone who had a lot of money and could sing okay. And he was tired of me going out on the road.
David Lee Roth?
No one that famous. He's a really great guy. He says, I'm going to put you on retainer.
Yeah.
And so, I would stay at home for $300 a week and not like just kind of.
This certain car dealership guy who's done the same thing down the street here. Over.
Yeah.
You know that guy?
Yeah.
I guess he did that with a bunch of the guys from Boston.
Yeah. And this guy wasn't as rich as that guy, but
Right.
And he was kind of like a Black Crowes, John Cougar Mellencamp type thing, and it was fine. But I was kind of hitting a low point with substance abuse, so those kind of things
Which
coincide.
happens in our business.
And I came up the other side, and I was like, well, I love playing guitar, I love doing this, but I need some kind of like stability in my life. So I got a regular job.
Yeah.
Well, not really regular. I work for this place called amazing audio place called Goodwin Tie-End.
That rings a bell.
And it's just audiophile stuff. And then I started getting asked to play again, and I was practicing the whole time.
Yep.
But I'd also in the late '90s, I saw a couple guitar players that really, really, really inspired me. Like, wow, man, you don't have to play at this huge amount of volume. And I was always into country guitar players. Like this whole time, I was always into. And there was there's two guys in town that really did it well. The first guy's name was Jimmy Scopa.
Don't know.
He played in TH in the Wreckage. You could still play him today. See him today. He's like James Burton in a nutshell. He could do other things.
Get all these names from you after the show.
Yeah, and then the other guy, and I still see him today, and he's one of my favorite guitar players. Probably, he's like what Yngwie was to me in the '80s is what this guy is to me today. His name is Duke Levine.
Yep.
And
Duke is famous over there in the Somerville. I mean, really, he's probably the upper level of all the guitar players in Boston, right? Because he's a first call guy.
Yeah, and he's so musical, and he's really. I mean, he's. Really
I've tried to get
amazing.
on the show with no luck.
And he's a sweetheart. He's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. And there was a third guy too, Kevin Barry.
Don't know him.
Kevin Barry plays with him, and those guys. I want a telly, and I want to play music. I don't want to play sort of.
Because if you listen to his latest, what's the name of your album?
Savvy Tonerino.
And where can we get it?
You could get it everywhere.
Savvy.
You could get it on all the streaming services.
I looked it up today on iTunes, and I noticed you have 4 albums on iTunes.
Yes, I have 4.
Yeah, and this one just came out, and I love it. And it's that telly sound, clean through a Fender, and so actually. We get a video here. Can you intro that video and tell us what this video is going to be about?
The first video you're going to see is from, I think it's a CD release party for either, I think it's for Guitar-esque, my second record, second solo record, and that was from Atwood's in Somerville, and we're playing old Elizabeth Cotton tune, Freight Train.
Cool. So here's this video. folks, we're back here. So take me up to today. What is Tony Savarino doing today? What's going on? You just got a new album out.
Yes.
You're teaching all over the place,
Yes,
right? And
yes,
it's
sir.
TonySavarino.com?
TonySavarino.com.
And people can get a hold of you,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff like
Yeah.
that.
So
what are you
this
doing
year
right
was-
now, man? What are guitar players in your sort of age group thing? What's going on right now?
Well, for me, 2019 was really exciting because
Yeah.
I finally released a new record,
Mm-hmm.
and I also got nominated for a Boston Music Award.
I
Which
saw
never
that,
happened.
which is a huge deal.
Yes.
How'd that happen?
I don't know. I thought I
How
probably
does that-
pissed everybody off at this point. They wouldn't ever get nominated, but I was like, it really blew me away. And I usually don't put my credence on those things, but it was still kind of cool.
It's an honor, man. It's a big thing. Anybody around
Yeah.
here would like to be nominated for
yeah,
that.
so that was great.
Did you win?
No, I did not. I did
Okay,
not win.
that's all right.
But I would have been. I
And
was
what was
happy
it,
to
best
losing
guitar
to any
player
of
in the
guys.
area?
It was for best session musician.
Uh-huh.
So the other
Right,
guys
right.
that were on there were Duke Levine.
Cool.
The guy who won was his name was Jonathan Allman. He's won like 4 times in a row. He's a drummer. My
So it
drummer
wasn't
in the
just
Sav-
guitar players.
and my drummer in the Sav Tones was nominated, Mike Levesque. So we were constantly ribbing each other about that.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, there was a bunch of guys, and I was fine with any of them winning. They probably deserved it more than I did, and I was just beyond it even been mentioned. So, that was really cool. Then the new record came out, and then I've been sort of working on promoting that. As far as gigs go, the Sav Tones have a residency the third Thursday of every month, 8 to 10 p.m. at the Square Root in Roslindale.
Don't
No
even know
cover.
it. I know
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a new
What's
place.
it, in
that
Rossi
opened-
Center, right?
Right in Rossi Center.
Okay.
Right in
There are cool restaurants right around that area.
Yeah.
It's a nice little area, Rossi
It
Center.
is. But this next month, February is actually the 4th Thursday, but it's typically the 3rd Thursday. And then
What time? Like 7 to 10 type thing?
8 to 10.
Okay,
8 to
cool.
10. And we play 2 sets.
This is not an open mic type thing? It's
No.
you guys-
Just come in, have a beer, have a glass of wine.
Mhm. And
sit
people
back.
dance to it?
People dance.
Are
if
you
they
doing
want to.
covers? You actually have a couple of covers on your album, right?
Oh yeah, we do. We try to do obscure covers.
Do you sing? Because I noticed
No.
in your album you don't sing. Okay.
No.
Do you have a singer come?
Sometimes I'll have a guest singer come. Sometimes we'll have a guest come up. And then I'm doing a couple gigs with Ruby Rose Fox.
Who's that? I've
the
seen
Overrun.
that on your website.
So she's like an amazing.
Ruby
she's
Rose
amazing.
Fox.
Yeah, she's kind of like, how do I describe her? She's kind of like Leonard Cohen meets Grace Jones.
Aha. Cool.
Sort of
Yeah.
really great songwriter.
Right, great
incredible
lyrics.
singer. So we have one gig up in New Hampshire, one gig at Oberon.
What, a duo thing?
No, this is like whole band.
Is it
5
Saptones
piece.
backing her up?
No, well, actually, it's me and one Savtone, Jeff Calder.
Mm-hmm.
But the drummer in that's Dave Brophy, and the bass player's Matt Gerard.
And I'd be remiss to not ask who is in the Saptones.
Oh, all right. So, actually, everybody in the Somerville Cambridge scene has probably played in the
Oh, really?
Savtones.
Tom Bianchi?
Alan
Alan Goodrich?
actually, not Tom Bianchi or Alan, but I know. But I'll tell you who's currently in it.
Yeah.
Well, they're the guys. Tom West,
Yeah.
who's in Peter Wolf's band, plays with Susan Tedeschi, and Mike Levesque, who's played with everybody. I mean, he played with David Bowie. He's played with Tribe. He's played with Miss 7 Mary 3. He's a great drummer. Sean McLaughlin, who won Best Producer at the VMAs.
I've heard of that guy. South Shore guy?
Yeah, South Shore guy.
Yeah. He has a big studio that's well known.
Yeah, 37
Is that where you
foot.
recorded?
That's where I do all my. That's
Okay,
the
that's a
home of the
big time
Savtones.
recording thing.
Yeah, 37-foot productions.
Yeah.
And he plays bass and produces and mixes, and Zach Bloomstein. But Duke's played on a couple of Savtones records. Kevin Perry's guest stars. I told you Michael Bean from Vinnie Moore and was on it. I've had Sonny Barbado. I don't know if you know him. He's an amazing piano player. I've had last night we did a gig, a corporate gig up in Burlington, and I had subs, and I had great Tom Airy on drums, who plays with the B3.
Is this the Savtones or Ruby Rose?
Oh, this is Savtones.
Okay, cool.
Ruby Rose, that's like she comes into town, books a couple of gigs, does really well, has a huge following.
I want to jam out here. We got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah.
Is like, how does your sort of thing work with a corporate? I'm assuming the corporate gig, they want like, straight commercial dance music.
I don't know. They hear, some guys just. I have a lot of guys who take lessons with me. Who are,
Like guys
Who are
our age?
CEOs, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, cool. So
and now
it's
they-
not just kids. You're teaching all ages.
Oh, I teach everyone from 6-year-olds to 60-year-olds or 7-year-olds.
Cool.
You know.
Hey, let's jam on something, man.
Okay.
So, thanks for coming here. Tony
Yeah, no
Savarino,
problem.
TonySavarino.com. The Sav Tones, Ruby Rose, Monster Guitar Player. So let's just jam. Thanks a lot, and see you next episode. Thank you.